What is up, team? Welcome back to the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane. That's Cole Latshaw. And today, unfortunately, we have to start with some terribly sad news. St. John's legend, beloved coach Lou Carnesecca passed away yesterday at the age of 99 years old. It's terribly sad for all St. John's fans, college sports fans, and sports fans alike, all of which have come together to celebrate a wonderful life and a wonderful human being. Cole, your thoughts today on the passing of Lou Carnesecca?
Real bummer. I mean, Lou Carnesecca is St. John's. I always thought it was so cool that even in his advanced age, he's still like showing up to all the games. Obviously, in recent memory, we know with the Simeon Wilcher recruitment that they sat down for an extended period of time with Lou Carnesecca, which I thought was like one of the coolest stories ever. I don't know, Pat, had you ever had the chance to meet Lou?
No, I never did. I'm only speaking as a fan, not an alum, so my connection to St. John's is different than most. But I started watching after the glory years, the years that Lou brought to the program that he built, and because of that, that's probably why I was able to be a fan, because I heard about all those good times and just seeing him at the games, talking, the reverence and the respect that always paid to him was just like an anchor of stability and legitimacy to St. John's, in the college basketball landscape. So I felt like I knew him, even though I had no opportunity to meet him. What about yourself?
Yeah, no personal interaction on my end. I mean, to your point about sort of the aura that he built around St. John's, and again, like I had said, that he was and always will be St. John's. I can't tell you the amount of like job interviews I've been on where they see on my resume St. John's University, and we talk about Lou Carnesecca, Chris Mullen, Walter Berry, Malik Sealy, like almost virtually, 75% of the job interviews that I'm on in the finance world, like that gets brought up. Brother Sean has a really, really cool story of meeting Lou, though. He had just seen like Lou like walking around on campus one day, in his little like old man get up with his little newsboy hat on. And Sean was in between classes and went up to him and asked him to sign a piece of notebook paper. That was all Sean had on him. And Lou said, no, come to my office, and took him to his office over in the Asian Studies building, sat down with Sean, talked to him for, what seemed like a while, just about nonsense, just BS, and asked Sean where he was from. Sean said Pennsylvania, started talking about recruiting in Philadelphia back in the day. At one point, some graduate assistant or something tried coming into Lou's office. There's probably a recruit or something on campus, and he scolded the graduate assistant, like, hey, don't you see I'm talking to my buddy Sean here? So he ended up pulling out an 8x10 that he had of the famous picture of Lou doing like the fist pump, and signed it to Sean. And then when they were getting ready to leave, Sean thanked him so much for his time, and then came back and was like, hey, sorry, Lou, do you think I could get a second 8x10 and have you autograph another one for my brother? And he did it. And it was just the coolest thing to take time like that for an absolute nobody and spend so much time and make Sean feel like, he was the most important person in the world. Like, that's just the type of guy he was. And as we see all the outpouring of love come out, we see hundreds of stories of like that. Everybody that he made them feel like they were the most important person in the world. And that just speaks to the character of the man.
Wow, what a story. I'm going to try not to get emotional, just tangentially, just all these things today. You see the outpouring, like you said, it's incredible to see, how many people he touched. And seemingly it wasn't just, a one-off for all these stories. There were dozens and dozens of just people reminiscing about the fact that he remembered their name years later. Stuff to that speaks to his character. Even his biggest competitors seem to respect him and enjoy their competitions against each other, but also fear him as the great coach that he was. Yeah. Shout out to Sean as well. Big things coming from that Latshaw family the rest of the season. So very sad to hear about the passing from Lou. Excited to see what St. John's does to pay their respects. Obviously, we got that big game next weekend. Me and Cole and hopefully close to 6,000 other St. John's fans will be in there packing that house, paying our respects to Lou and making it tough as hell for Kansas State to have a comfortable game. So excited. I say we don't sit till that first basket gets scored. Maybe start a new tradition of our own at St. John's and pay respects to that guy. What do you think, Cole?
Yeah, the place is going to be absolutely rocking. Like, it wasn't already a hard enough game for Kansas State coming in. They have had a little bit of struggles themselves, and they're out of conference so far, playing in the small bandbox of Carnesecca Arena, and now with the passing of Lou. I mean, it's going to be one of the hottest tickets in St. John's recent memory. Like, that place will be absolutely packed, absolutely rocking. And like you said, I'm super excited to see what they do to honor Coach Carnesecca.
Yeah, 100%. Let's do it for Lou. St. John's, also did play a game yesterday. They beat Harvard in a weird game, a game that really never got into a flow. We were mentioning before we started talking that it seemed like it was always 2 or 3 baskets away from a blowout or 2 or 3 baskets away from being, a nail biter. And St. John's kind of kept them between that 12 to 8 point range for the majority of the game without playing great, but seemingly not playing terribly as well. Any opening thoughts on yesterday's game against Harvard?
Yeah, I mean, to your point, like, you end up beating Harvard by 13. I think you were 26.5 point favorites. So it wasn't the throttling that we were hoping to see. I think just a few like good and bad and uglies of the game, like 6 for 27 from three, shooting 22% after you just shot 10% against Georgia. That needs to improve. We're not going to win games against better competition shooting from 3 points so poorly. We did out rebound Harvard by plus 16. I think it was 50-34. So dominating the glass, outscored them in the paint 42-20. So you're dominating the glass and dominating the paint. And then also holding Harvard to 36% shooting from the field, 27% shooting from three. How much of that is Harvard just isn't a really good team? How much of that is St. John's playing tremendous team defense? Maybe a mixed bag of mixed nuts there, but again, the rebounding margin, the points in the paint margin, playing good team defense, I think those are all positives.
Yeah, it's hard to gauge at 100%, with that level of opponent. From the box score, giving up 27% from three isn't a terrible thing, but you felt it in the second half. They were 6 for 15, I think, and we were 1 for 12 in the second half from three. So just a 5-3 differential in 20 minutes of a basketball game, that's 15 points. That could be a big swing in either direction. So even though, grand scheme of things, we did a pretty good job keeping them in check from three, we're going to have to do a better way on both ends of that, making a few more ourselves and limiting those runs from opponents, or else we'll see big swings in second halves of games. The first half, speaking of 3-point shooting, and I should have thrown up this pictures we had of Lou before while we were reminiscing. But again, shout out to Hall of Famer, St. John's legend, Lou Carnesecca. Some of his highlights there: 526 career wins, 18 NCAA tournament appearances, 3-time Big East Coach of the Year, a career 725 winning percentage. That's 37th all time among coaches who have coached at least 10 years in Division I basketball. And then I thought this was incredible. 24 seasons. In 10 of those seasons, St. John's reached the top 10 at some point in the AP poll. So, I mean, if you're reaching the top 10 at any point in the season, you're having a really good season. You're right there amongst the best programs, and you're talked about on a consistent basis. Just something we could hopefully one day strive to get back to, close to a number like that within a 24-year span. So, and then 100% approval rating. You see it. Not a single soul said a bad thing about Lou. And then speaking of Harvard, this was the box score for our team. I was just about to mention Jaden Glover in that first half. Sparked some energy for some 3-point shooting. He got extended minutes yesterday without Davon Smith playing. 11 points, 19 minutes, 3 for 8 from three, including that buzzer beater at the end of the first half. Did you have any thoughts on what you saw from Jaden yesterday?
It was really interesting. Obviously, you're kind of put into a tough situation with Davon Smith not playing, but I thought it was interesting how much ball handling responsibilities Rick gave Jaden. It almost seemed like he was sort of the point guard coming off the bench with the second unit. Simeon playing a lot more like off ball when they were on the court together. Rick had a really great quote in his post-game press conference. He said, "I think it was great for Jaden tonight. That type of experience is invaluable and can only help our team. I've got a lot of confidence in Jaden. I really do, playing the point," which is something he has never done before. He's not nervous at all. He can take more shots per second than anyone on the team. And I think, like you said, he's a sort of heat check, like immediately comes in, not afraid, start launching. But it's great for a young freshman to have that type of confidence.
Yeah. He hadn't been dropping yet, but he hasn't that hasn't seemed to slow him down, and it looks like it's going in every time at least releases his hand. If you ask me, the form looks good, the confidence is there, and it was good to finally see a few of them drop. Obviously, having it look good means nothing if it never goes in, but I think there's a real shooter there, and the size and the athleticism. He's got to work on his defense. He did get blown by once yesterday, and then the help defense is something that a young guy's always going to get better at as long as they're putting in the work. But I think if he continues to shoot like that, and I'm not sure if we take Rick with 10 grains of salt or we take him for his word about Brady Dunlap's performance yesterday, and we know he seemingly was raving about Brady's game. My thoughts would be that if Brady does continue to not light it up from three, or at least, if he struggles from three, then Jaden could really eat into those minutes at that wing position when you've got guards like Richmond, or you could kind of guard 2 through 4. You can get more flexible with fitting in those wings. And I think his shooting could be something that could perhaps eat into Brady's minutes as the season goes on. Not that Brady is incapable of helping in other ways, but if he's not hitting shots, it becomes less valuable, obviously, to have those things he does, on a pretty good level.
Yeah, you said, talking about Jaden, like it looks like it's going in every time it leaves his hands, that his form looks great. Like I would say the opposite of Brady Dunlap, especially over the last couple of games. His shot, like we've been saying kind of all year since he put on that weight, like looks kind of flat. He obviously still has the confidence, which is great. And he obviously was shooting amazingly through the first couple of games of the season, but he's really started to struggle here these last couple of games. One thing I did love about Brady's performance yesterday, obviously we didn't get a lot of minutes out of Aaron Scott yesterday, who fouled out and only played 13 minutes, but Brady playing a lot of time really at that 4 spot, got 7 boards. I thought you saw a lot of hustle. There was kind of a 4-minute span there where Brady really took over a lot of the game when Harvard was kind of trying to make a run at it, trying to get it below that like 8-point margin. And Brady had a real hustle play, saving the ball going out of bounds, got a nice layup, got a couple of defensive rebounds in traffic. And so Rick in his post-game press conference said, "I'll go home tonight and say Brady Dunlap was our MVP." Nobody else would agree with that, but I thought he was.
Yeah, I think that's an exaggeration. Not that I think Brady played bad. And, I've said a million times on this podcast, you don't have to shoot well to have a good game. And Brady will give you those extra efforts. I just think it's a little bit of hyperbole to say he's the MVP of that game, maybe trying to keep a kid's confidence up and pay tribute to those hardworking attributes that he wants the rest of the team to buy into. But, I do agree you can't just pull a shooter after 1 or 2 misses. But I also very much agree with you. These last 3 games after that injury from Baylor, his jump shot has got flatter, and it's already been too flat, if you ask me. Perhaps rushing it a little bit. But great to see the hustle even on an off night. And everybody on the team should buy into that same approach.
Yeah, if you were asking me who the MVP was, obviously RJ Lewis has just had an unbelievable season, and we expect almost a double-double out of him every single night. But we've been preaching patience with Kadari Richmond. I think the fan base started getting a little restless at his sort of his lack of scoring, and his, I don't want to call it lackadaisical. That's what some people will put adjectives to his style of play, but I think that's more just his style of play. He's slow, prodding. In no way do I think that's lazy, but some of the fan base wanted to get a little antsy. He comes out, has 18, 8, 4, 3 blocks, and shows his ability, even on the offensive end with the ball in his hand, to take over when he wants to and when this team needs to. It's similarly like what I was just talking about, that 4-minute stretch with Brady. At other times when Harvard was really hanging close, Kadari took the ball, beat his man one-on-one, got the ball to the rim, made a few really athletic layups, really athletic finishes at the rim. I thought it was probably his best game that we've seen him play in St. John's so far. And I think it's, again, what we can expect from him every single night is that level of effect on the game, whether it's just scoring points or whether it's rebounding and creating for others. It's amazing, his ability on the defensive end too, his ability to affect the game in a multitude of ways.
Absolutely. I think maybe I would word it as RJ had the best day for a player, and I think Kadari had the best day for our team moving forward. RJ was great, and it's kind of ho-hum in what he did today. We've seen it a few times already, just dominating in the paint, 2 feet in the paint. I continue to say he's one of the biggest weapons, not only in the Big East, but in college basketball. Just bigger and stronger than he looks, more athletic than he is in the open court when he's around those guys deep down around the rim, getting 2 feet and just exploding. He's just so hard to deal with. Offensive rebounding, catching in transition. It's been fun to watch. And then Kadari, as you said, great overall game. The most confident he's looked dribbling the basketball. I thought it just looked like it was, he dried his hands off today and was ready to hold on to that basketball tight the whole game. It just has been a little bit too loose these first 7 games in the season. And yesterday, it looked like he had total control. Remind me a bit of what we saw from Jordan Dingle last year. The first 20 or so games of the season, it felt like he never had control of the basketball to me. It was always just loose with it in his fingertips. And in the last 10 games, he finally got comfortable, finally settled down. I know a lot of fans will jump right now to that being a game without Davon is what Kadari needed. And I hate to jump to that conclusion. I'm not going to go there. I think we could have saw the same Kadari tonight if Davon was playing. I think we have seen good stretches with him on the court. I think it's only a good thing we saw Kadari playing well, and we could not, put any type of connection to Davon being out. We still need to see the two of them play more before we can draw any conclusions either way. But good to see both of those guys put St. John's really on their back, and aside from them, was the difference against Harvard yesterday at this point.
And we talked earlier about dominating the glass and dominating the paint. Like obviously Kadari and RJ did a lot of damage at the rim. Zuby also going for 8 and 8 with I think at least 5 offensive rebounds. Just what we expect from Zuby at this point. Like he's playing really well and really confident. His ability to hit, especially the offensive glass, is really, really impressive.
Yeah, that's his biggest weapon. I mean, and that's at the very tip of the elite level in college basketball, hunting offensive rebounds. He's up there with the very best, and he's getting more and more comfortable finishing after doing it. It's still not the best around the rim, but it's getting more and more adequate. And eventually I think he'll get to a point where he's a very above average to great finisher by the time he leaves St. John's. And as we've heard him say, he loves his time here at St. John's. So I'm going to hold him to that when it comes to the off season. And those rumors, will float with everybody in college basketball. Go ahead.
What did you make of Aaron Scott's kind of performance, disjointed performance? Do you think it was just more a weird game with a weird flow to it? He was picking up fouls that then got him kind of glued to the bench.
Well, it was a very weird flow in the first half. We didn't really mention all the lineups we saw. We did finally see Zuby and Prey. We'll get back to that in a second, but we saw your wanted Zuby and Prey lineup. I had to go check the box score, so I wasn't positive when he picked up his second. I noticed he hadn't gotten back in for 15 or so minutes in the first half. So then I realized he got a second. I said, well, that makes sense. That's status quo for Pitino.
Rick.
This is now the second game where the one game he was sick, so played like 4 minutes. This game, the 5 fouls in 13 minutes, they're almost like 2 no-shows. They'll really hurt his averages at the end of the year if that matters to anybody. I'm sure it doesn't matter to Coach Pitino. I was going to ask you, does him fouling out in 13 minutes, does that give credence to Coach Pitino's method of holding a guy out with 2, or does that just show you you're not going to play 25 more minutes anyway, you might as well play him? I mean, I think unfortunately this gives credence to him. In his mind, he's going to say, look, he only played 8 more minutes and he got 3 more fouls. But I think this, you never know what's going to happen. He could have, one of those fouls doesn't happen, he plays another 14 minutes. Like it's I don't know. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I know Rick was somewhat critical of both RJ and Kadari for their defense in his post-game conference. So, is it just a weird game with weird matchups where Aaron was playing a lot of help defense as other players were getting beat on the perimeter and picking up fouls that way? Rick did say post-game, teams like Harvard, Princeton, Columbia, they give us problems right now because they're 5 out and we're a help defense team. To your point, obviously we know that's who Rick is. You pick up your second foul in the first half, you're sitting for the rest of the half. He's never going to change that. But nonetheless, it's slightly concerning that one of your starting players, a guy who's been at times our best player on the court, picks up 5 fouls in 13 minutes. He's got to be more disciplined on the defensive end, especially when you've got a high amount of fouls, when you already have 1 in the first half and you're sitting if you pick up that second one, when you've already got 4 in the second half and you pick up that 5th that knocks you out of the game, you got to be more disciplined than that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, I don't think he's going to budge, Coach Pitino, but I think he could have this as a strong preference to not play a guy with 2 fouls, but I don't think he could just draw that line in the sand and say no matter what. I think there's going to be a time this year where Kadari or RJ or, hopefully Davon, when he's back playing with us, picks up 2 fouls in the first half, and we can't go 15 minutes against a high quality opponent, rolling the dice. Those lineups in the first half, how about it? We saw at one point Vince, Prey, Ayo, Dunlap, and Jaden, I think, for at least a defensive possession that forced a shot clock violation. I can't remember if that lineup made it past the next timeout or not, but for at least one defensive possession, we saw that group of 5. I would have bet a lot of money that group of 5 would have never seen the floor together. It's so much money. I'd have no money left. But defensively, they at least look good for one possession. I still struggle with all these random lineups in the first half, but Coach Pitino's a guy who uses his depth earlier rather than later, and then you'll see him tighten up in the second half. But to see that lineup, I think with 12 minutes left in the first half, it's weird to get to that point. Your thoughts on what you saw lineup-wise yesterday?
I think still, too, it's still somewhat early in the season. I think Rick's still figuring out his rotations, figuring out his depth and his roster. I think by the time we get into Big East play, I would be surprised to see that bench get shortened even more and see him with more set rotations.
Was it Yogi who said it gets late early around here, guys?
Yep.
So, I mean, come on, Rick. I get it. You're rewarding different guys. You were out without a player today for whatever reason. We're not going to dig too deep into that, Cole, unless you want to talk about the reasons for Davon's suspension / sitting / team pushed agenda. I don't know. Not agenda is the wrong word to use there 100%, but that's what Rick said in the quotes, was that it was the team's decision to have him sit and to work his way back with the team. So obviously there's something there. You don't just sit a guy randomly. And I don't think St. John's is the only team that deals with this stuff. So I don't think it's the end of the world. But obviously there's something there that's got to get straightened out. And hopefully it's able to get straightened out sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I think those rumors are out there for any of our listeners who want to look it up. And we don't need to rehash that or put that out there here. I think, Braziller has said he reacted poorly to being benched in the second half of the Georgia game following a turnover. We can leave that where it is, but especially with the passing of Lou, Rick had a lot of things to say about what a St. John's man is, and behaving like that, reacting like that isn't necessarily what a St. John's man is. But one of the things I did like regarding some of the rumors and the story that is out there is it was said that Davon did apologize to Rick afterwards and apologize to the rest of his team. And I would say being a man and being able to accept when you've done something incorrect and apologize for that, I would say that is what a St. John's man is. So kudos to Davon for that. I'm happy that if sort of some mindset correction needed to take place, if a message needed to be sent by doing a benching like this, you had a game against Harvard that you should be able to handle without one of your better players, and you could do that in this game. So happy the team was able to get the W without Davon. Happy that it sounds like Davon has already made amends, and hopefully he changes his behavior and that type of stuff doesn't continue to happen. One thing I thought was cool, I'm not sure if you saw this, but the team had a post-game autograph session for people that were in attendance yesterday, and it was good to see Davon there up front with the rest of the players smiling. So I was happy to see that.
Yeah, and there was one point where they put him on the TV camera and they were discussing it, and he didn't look like he was the happiest right there. But I just don't think we can all jump to being, body language or mind reading experts and know exactly what's going on in just a 5-second clip of a kid, sitting on a bench during a basketball game. Like you said, good to see him still, signing autographs and smiling with fans after the fact. Let's talk a little bit now about our 8-game sample size statistics throughout the team. This is just points, rebounds, assists, steals, blocks. I didn't have enough space to fit in the shooting percentages, but I think we can kind of talk about those as well. Obviously, what stands out is the season RJ's having. Statistically wise, he's been a standout. And then eye test wise on the defensive end, continues to do great things. Had a really nice defensive steal yesterday and finished it with an awkward jump and lay-in at the other end. But 18 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.6 steals, a block a game. His turnover rate's gone down. His usage rate has gone up. His effective field goal percentage has jumped almost 10 percentage points. And he just looks like a different player out there, both physically and mentally. Zuby, another guy who's statistically, after a slow start to the season, I think he had a 1 point in the first game and maybe 5 rebounds, but still slower start, and has really picked things up. A few really good games, but 12, 7, 2.5 blocks a game on good percentages. I think you'd be out of your mind not to take that going into the season as a good point for Zuby to be at.
Yeah, I think at this point, through 8 games and limited sample size and limited that we've gotten to see the other Big East teams, but I don't think it's insane to say that RJ Lewis has played like a first team All Big East player so far this season.
Yeah.
Which is, I don't know that I was necessarily expecting, and we were all expecting maybe a little bit of jump for RJ, but it's amazing what he's done so far this season. I think one of the other things that really jumps out to me looking at these stats is you see both Davon and Kadari's ability to affect the game in like a multitude of ways. Like Kadari, 10, 5.6 rebounds, 5 assists. Davon, 9.4 points, 5.6 rebounds, 5.3 assists. I mean, stat sheet stuffers.
Yeah, absolutely. And going into this last game, and I'm not sure how it tallied up without Davon playing, he was leading the team in defensive rebounds. So, that just goes to show you it's not just the athleticism is not just for show. It really does help us. And for a team that struggles a little bit on the defensive boards, having another guy who's not just capable, but perhaps your best pound for pound guy on that side, not having him, you feel it in a multitude of areas. Not one that we didn't mention is 3-point shooting. We didn't have him this game or the second half against Georgia. Coincidence we shot terribly from 3 that was 30 minutes or so. I don't think that's 100% coincidence. I think there's a lot to it, and some of that is the shots and the angles of those passes and those driving kicks that Davon's able to bring to the table.
Mm-hmm.
Kadari, 10 points is a little bit less than I certainly would have imagined. Again, I'm not going to be the guy who gets on the guy for not scoring too many points. The 5 or 6 rebounds, 5 assists, about what I imagined. Maybe rebounding a little bit more, but with Lewis playing the amount of minutes he's able to be playing and rebounding at that level, it's kind of lessened his rebounding load. And then you also got Scott and Smith, capable defensive rebounders as well. Aaron Scott, 10 and 4. Wiltshire, 9 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist. He's not really been as productive as you see against Harvard or the earlier games, Fordham, for example, where he was more aggressive shooting and attacking. He's kind of taken a little bit of a back seat in those high major games. But altogether on the, season as a whole and the player we're seeing, I think we definitely are seeing a different Simeon. I think we'll see more games against Big East level teams where he's a capable 5th or 6th guy, sometimes higher than that. Thoughts on any of those guys?
And you need that,
Lewis or Richmond.
And you need that out of Sim. You're going to need that in Big East play. Like, obviously we've seen, and we talked about even preseason, like shooting is this team's Achilles heel. When you lose the game against Georgia because you shoot 10% from 3-point, when you don't beat Harvard as handily as you should have based on what the Vegas spreads were saying, because you shoot 22% from 3, like you're going to need Simeon's shooting. So I know we've said all year so far his confidence is there. The shot looks beautiful. Like you're going to need him to keep staying with it, keep taking open looks and keep making them.
Yep. And then the one guy we didn't see yesterday was Lefty. I'm a big Lefty guy. I'd like to see, I'm all on one side of my mouth clamoring for Rick to, tighten it up a little bit on the rotations. But on the other side, if he's going to continue to play 10 guys in the first half, I'd like the Lefty to be one of those 10 guys every once in a while. Still, I thought Prey had some good moments, good awareness, spacing, passing. A lot of his stuff won't show in the box score unless he gets a couple just layups that land in his pocket. But he does a lot of things connectivity-wise that keeps us stable defensively and offensively that I think are good signs for him in the future, and I hope we continue to see more minutes from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hope we continue to see more minutes from him with him like at the power forward role in a big Twin Towers lineup, because I love my Twin Tower lineups.
That's 2 or 3 times in a row he's been in with the Twin Towers, so maybe it's getting more and more likely. Hopefully, we'll get more than just 90 seconds next time with Zuby and him. We can get you more of a sample size. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Obviously, heavy hearts to the Carnesecca family and the St. John's family. We pay our respects to him now and forever. Um, Me and Cole will be in the building next Saturday. Can't wait to be there for that. Hopefully, all of us are making the noise and showing our respects, and St. John's gets a much needed win against Kansas State. Please like, subscribe, share this for Lou Carnesecca. This has been the Red Storm Rapid Reaction Podcast. I'm Pat Kane. That's Cole Adshaw. Peace.